Geographies mini conference. My name is Nathan, assistant professor of urbanization planning here at PSU, and one of the members of the organizing committee for this year's conference. I have nothing prepared to say about the events yesterday in Paris, but I just want to take a moment to acknowledge those events, and ideally we'll have space at the breakout session. There was a request from a couple of people here to have a space to talk about that, and so thinking about those events, but also the terror that people experience on a daily basis in many other parts of the world that are related to the events in Paris as well. So I just want to sort of put that out there and something to keep in our minds today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little rundown of the program today, a little logistics. But first, what I want to do, this is perhaps the most important part of the day, it's to acknowledge and express my deepest gratitude to everyone who's made today possible. First of all, can you guys hear me okay in the back? Not very well. Okay. Wait. Oh, not very well. Some people resist that. Oh, yeah. Okay. Directly. Okay. So I want to express my gratitude to the people who really made this possible today. So first and foremost, I want to acknowledge the 5 students, PSU students, who've committed so much time and energy to making this happen. In addition to really coming up with a vision for this, these students took on the burden of planning and managing the bulk of the logistics. And so actually, if each of you could stand up when I call your name. So Claire Bach. Her artwork graces the back of your program. So thank you, Claire, for that, as well as doing all these students really were fundamental to the organizing of the sessions and everything. Amy Copeland, who's Amy? She's a student in urban studies and has really dealt with a lot of logistics, lunch, etc. for today. Dirk Kinsey. Dirk is a master's student in geography here, and you've probably received some communications from him. Dylan Mahmoudi, candidate in urban studies, and the website that you all interface with is all of Dylan's brilliant work. Gwen Manser, who's at the back, manning the camera. And he is a master's in geography student here at PSU. So these folks have been amazing, committing themselves to this conference when they have so much else to juggle: jobs, coursework, dissertation proposals, field work, and this has absolutely been a voluntary labor of love on all their parts. So let's really give them another round of applause. A big heartfelt thanks also goes out to a couple of my colleagues in urban studies and planning, Naomi Adib and Megan Horst. Where are you guys today? So thank you guys for all the amazing work you put in with planning and organizing and logistics as well. I also want to say thanks to Britt Crow-Miller, Anthony Lavenda, and Hunter Shody, who contributed at the front end with brainstorming and visioning this conference. Also want to acknowledge Paul Kingsbury, right over there, from Simon Fraser, for his guidance. At the beginning last year, when we first met up to talk about bringing the conference down here to Portland from Vancouver last year, and we also look forward to hearing from him at the end of the day as he reflects on 10 years of critical geographies and conferences. I know some of you made it to Eugene McCann's talk yesterday afternoon. We look forward to Alex Tarr's talk on Monday, so thanks to both of them for bookending today's conference with a couple of great lectures. I don't know if Alex is here yet, but I see Eugene over there. He'll be on one of the panels later. And I need to acknowledge the financial support that has made today possible. You frequently hear the expression, there's no free lunch, but there actually is free lunch for you at least today. So thanks for the generous support of no less a student group here at PSU called SAUCY, and that stands for Students Addressing Urban and City Issues. Is that right? It's really just SAUCY. So anyway, thanks to SAUCY for flipping the major bill for today, actually. So of course it's the students who pull it off. Also the Ecosystem Services for Urbanizing Regions IGRT program here at PSU, covering our breakfast, coffee, and snacks today. We also received support, generous support from the fund of Paul Kingsbury at the Geography Department at Simon Fraser, and thanks to them for our drinks tonight at the Lucky Lab. And finally, we received support from the Department of Geography and School of Urban Studies and Planning to help with some of the other expenses related to hosting 115, 120 people. So it's a nice sized conference. I also want to be sure to recognize and thank the workers from Nuestra Familia Coffee for the breakfast and coffee and snacks, the workers from Basho's Mediterranean Cuisine who will be bringing us a delicious lunch, and the workers from PSU's Campus Audio and Visual Event Team to make sure that you guys can hear everything that I'm saying. And finally, I want to thank all of you for making the journey here today. You come from universities all over the Pacific Northwest and BC. About a third of you are from PSU, as well as a handful from down the road from Corvallis at OSU, Oregon State, and also the University of Oregon in Eugene. From across the river in Washington, we have participants from Evergreen State, from Eastern Washington University, from all three of the University of Washington's campuses, Tacoma, Seattle, Bothell. From BC, we have guests from UVic. From UBC, there's a big contingent from UBC here, from Simon Fraser, from the University of Northern British Columbia. And then several of you came from even further afield. University of Idaho, UCLA, University of New Mexico, University of Minnesota at Duluth, Rice University in Houston, Rutgers in New Jersey, Northeastern in Boston, Middlebury in Vermont, University of Toronto, University of Georgia, Florida International in Miami, and we even will have someone here from Fukushima University in Japan. So very exciting mix of folks from all around the region and continent. And our reach, fortunately, also extends beyond the Ivory Tower, and we're pleased to welcome several community members and independent geographers from Portland, from southeastern Washington, from Vancouver, BC, and from Northern California. So just a quick overview of the day that you'll be able to see on the program. We'll start out with the first paper session that we loosely organized under the theme of cities and governance. And so please note that you'll be able to find all of the paper titled abstracts on the website. We want to print 5 or 6 pages of that for everyone. So if you want to look at the abstracts and titles, you can find those there. We'll have a coffee break at 10:30, then our first panel discussion on critical sustainabilities. At lunch, we'll take about 45 minutes to grab lunch. As I said, Basho's Mediterranean. We'll find a table to settle down. Probably actually allow people to move into the next room over there as well, as long as there's not a classroom that's in session. And then after about 45 minutes at 12:45, we'll get some small group discussions going on a number of themes that people have volunteered to lead. There's a list of them on the walls that you'll see over there, so feel free to just jot down another theme or discussion topic. And as I said, some people have said they wanted to add discussion about Paris, Beirut, etc. On that list. After lunch, so we'll give you more instructions about how to break out, etc. Right around that. After lunch, we'll have our second paper session, this one loosely organized around the theme of capital and territory, our second panel on doing critical geography, before closing with some geohumanities, which is an underrepresented but growing field of geography, earth writing. We're excited to welcome this new geography, Sarah DeLoe and Tim Cresswell, who are scattered. Oh, there. Not scattered. Together. They'll be reading some poetry towards the end of the day, and we'll wrap up with Paul Kingsbury to close with some history of this event and reflections on the decade, as well as to take us through a closing discussion of today's themes. So, how many of you are visiting Portland for the first time? Who's never been here before? Okay, so a nice number of you. I hope you have some time to explore a little bit while you're here. It isn't all like Portlandia, but you'll certainly find some of that here, without a doubt. And I can also say that most of us who live here actually think the show is hilariously spot on. But I think that so many of us are critical geographers precisely because we want to understand and expose what lies behind the curtains in the land of Oz, what's happening in the boardrooms, the interstices of the city, to tell the stories that are silenced by these dominant narratives, to honor and acknowledge those excluded and repressed, and upon whose backs this city and region was and continues to be built. The multiple forms of violence driven by white supremacy, patriarchy, and capital that have felled so many and driven so many more to organize and resist in many different ways. So on the conference website, we've included some links to some critical geographies of Portland, so I encourage you to explore some of those. But I also just want to take a few minutes just to flash a couple of images up here. Many of these are images that our student organizers selected to raise some critical geographic themes related to the space where we've gathered today. So, one theme, the relative invisibility of indigenous people in this U.S. city with the 9th highest native population, which represents a population that represents more than 380 tribes resettled from across the continent on historic lands of the Kalapuya and Multnomah. The legal geographies of race-making and placemaking. This is from the 1857 Constitution of the Florida. Use value and exchange value, racial exclusion, and nearly half a century of food production by Cantonese market gardeners prior to the construction of the municipal stadium. The long, successive, and ongoing displacement of African Americans in America's most rapidly gentrifying city. Portland's gendered history of automation and the de-skilling of labor from the Kaiser shipyards to software. The growing contribution of weaponized surveillance drone manufacturing into the regional economy in a place that prides itself on its progressive politics. The role of the rent gap in the production of nature. The policing of black bodies in the whitest city in America. And to quote some of the language that's been cycling through the Critical Geographies mini-conferences over the last few years, ours is not the best of all possible worlds. Better worlds latent in the present must be sought and fought for. So these critical geographies not only represent, demystify, and provide more coherent understandings of the past and present, but can also inform the tactics of the present and our visions of the future that can help produce spaces to celebrate, to dream of, and to fight for. So clearly there's more to Portlandia than food carts, bike lanes, bioswales, and piers. While these images are all from Portland, they may seem familiar to those of you from elsewhere. They suggest the shared geographies that thread together our region, both despite and because of municipal, state, provincial, and national boundaries. They may conjure up for you the bulldozing of Hogan's Alley for construction of Georgia Viaduct, or the ongoing gentrification of the downtown east side, the struggle for the cleanup of the Duwamish River, the successful organizing campaigns of PICUN, the Pineros y Campesinos Union in the Willamette Valley, or the First Nations blockades of roads and pipelines across the sea. So to close on that note, I just again want to extend a warm welcome to all of you and to encourage you to use our time together today not only to hone our analytical tools and flesh out our critiques, but also to strategize and to dream of and shape the visions of a more progressive world, but also just have a great time today. So again, we wish you a very welcome and welcome to PSU and to the